All right. So welcome, Victoria.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So let's do a little background on you first. This is Victoria Krug. She is an Austrian artist with a mission to educate us about the vulva anatomy and diversity through vulva castings. Through a special type of body casting, a copy of participants' vulva is made and turned into a beautiful statue. They get to keep that. The statue belongs to the participant, and then their anonymous photo of the statue gets published, and she uses it to help educate others. So I think that is so cool. I actually, I don't even know where I came across it. Maybe Instagram, I'm not sure, but I just thought they were beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy you like them. I try to put all my love and my time and good energy into them to make them all, perfect and unique, just how they should be, because there's a person behind it that really cares. And yeah, nice that you like them.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I think actually maybe I found them when I was pulling images from my pleasure circle, because I was trying to show that there's diversity in terms of how vulvas look. And when I'm Googling vulva, which is always a little terrifying of what I'm going to get on the internet, I came across, I think, a bigger shot of like multiple statues that you had done. And so I started digging, and that's, I think, how we got connected.
Yeah, it's very likely, because the same thing, I mean, we're going to go into this a bit later still, but similar thing happened to me when I was trying to figure out, how diverse vulvas can be. The only thing that I found was sexualized content. So there was only pornography out there, and that has a different aim. It's not, I mean, porn has different goals, but not to educate us. And then when I figured that out, I was like, oh my God, how is this possible? We're in 2023. I mean, we fly to the Mars with robots, and we can do so many things. How can I not find non-sexualized photos of real vulvas? What is going on? So yeah, that's probably how you ended up finding my stuff, because there is not that much out there.
Yep, which is ridiculous, right? Like, and also I'm trying to pull non-sexualized. Good point, right? There's tons of porn. Sometimes I use illustrations, but it's also nice to see more realistic. And so to have that as an option, just to show the range of, what they can look like, because there is a huge range.
Oh, absolutely.
So, okay, so the casting happens. We're going to get into that. But first, I want to understand a little bit more about what your journey has been to get here. So tell us what you do and how you landed in this particular project.
So actually, I had to turn 27 to even come across the topic. I found an artist who does body casting, so full bodies. And that's the first time I realized that not all vulvas look like mine. I mean, I didn't watch porn, and I only slept with people who had a penis. So I just didn't know. And I was so shocked, because I also told my boyfriend, and he was like, yeah, I know, I've seen quite some. And I was like, wait, how do you know? And I don't. Shouldn't this be taught in schools, And then out of that lack of knowledge, I started exploring. And like I said, I couldn't find anything. And then I talked to my friends, and I was like, hey, did you know? And yeah, lots of them didn't know. And the ones who did, they couldn't show me resources. So I was like, wow,
because it's like, as women, of course, we undress and, locker rooms and that type of thing, but you're not looking at someone's vulva. And when there's pubic hair, especially, you can't see the differences in size and color and shape and all of that, right? You're not like focusing on that. So your only point of reference is really yourself, unless, for some reason you have, contact with somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even that, I mean, my partner also said, don't you show this to each other? And I was like, I don't even look at it myself. I don't often grab a mirror and look, I didn't even have a mirror at home back then. So even if I wanted to look, I first had to go out, get a mirror, and then, do the gymnastic poses to somehow look at myself. So, but yeah, out of that whole lack of knowledge and kind of shock that I had, I told my partner, why let's do a statue, instead of watching a movie, doing something silly, let's try this. So we did. And, the statue turned out fantastic. I loved it. And of course, like I put it up, and then with time, first few days I looked at it, the next week I looked at it, and I started to notice it does change how I see myself, and the thoughts that come to my head and the conversations that happen, because you have this perfect piece of decoration basically that is you. So I just thought maybe some people are interested in feeling the same things, and I posted it into a local group, and then over 60 people replied, and I was like, wow,
Oh yeah,
what is
you're like, I'm
this?
onto
What did I
something.
step here into? Yeah. So that's really how it started, and I just didn't stop.
Yeah. So there's definitely an interest. And I've seen like so you book dates, you go to different markets, and then people sign up for these vulva castings. And so like, what is that process like when people, I mean, they sign in, they pay their money, and then what happens?
Yes. So they come in. The casting session normally takes an hour to an hour and a half, but most of it is really talking. So basically, what we do is we just create a space where we can talk openly about topics related to the vulva. It's not just the anatomy. This is just the fundament of knowledge. This is like the basic, the anatomy. But what's in the whole topic? There's like sexuality, there's identity, there is pregnancy, the menstruation, health, so many topics. And there is not really a space in society where we can talk about these things. They're either, they're so taboo. And I know by now that it's not different in the US than it is here in Europe. So we have this worldwide problem where no one, creates those safe spaces. So yeah, the vulva casting session is a little bit like that. So we talk about lots of things, how we feel about the vulva, where it a little bit comes from, why we feel like that, what society has as an impact. And I also show them other statues and some resources, so photos of real vulvas. And at one point when we're comfortable with each other, we start the casting process, which is really quick and easy. So basically, the product that I'm using, it's used for the teeth. So it's really skin friendly. It goes into the mouth. It's used by dentists. And that goes
Is that
onto
what you
the...
would use when you get like a teeth mold, like when you're going to get braces
Yes,
or something like that? Oh, okay.
exactly
Yep.
that. Yeah, so some people know it, and they're always like, oh, is it as uncomfortable in the mouth as on the vulva? Like I say, no, the vulva is really great. You will be fine. It's fun. But yeah, that's the same stuff. And this is what copies everything that's
Yeah.
there. And
And have
afterwards,
you, yeah. And so they just, of course, they have to be hairless, right? To get a good.
unfortunately, yes. Very good point. I love body hair. It's so important to also address that everyone is welcome to leave their hair as they want in let's say always, but for the vulva casting session, unfortunately, they have to be removed. So yeah, but it's a big topic.
Yeah, to get the detail correctly. So then you lay is it plaster or?
So the alginate is called alginate, the stuff you get into your mouth. You put it onto the vulva, and it hardens, but it's not hard enough to stabilize the whole thing. That's why I put some plaster bandages on top. So if you look at the photos, this is why you see plaster bandages. And that creates a negative, so a copy of you. And that copy afterwards, I turn into a statue by like filling it up with plaster and working on it. So yeah, but that is done after the casting session. So that's more or less how it works.
And while that's happening, what is like the vibe? Like, are women like kind of in like, is there, I don't know, excitement? Is there embarrassment? Is there like probably a mix of everything?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a mix of everything. And it's really individual. It depends really what the main motivator was, why you want to get a statue, because some people do it to celebrate themselves, because they're already at the point where they love how it looks, they love how it works, the pleasure that it brings to them. Others are still along the journey. So they're like maybe not so sure about it, they're a bit insecure, or also embarrassed, because they were taught maybe something is not normal, or there's not it doesn't look like the ideal that is portrayed maybe in porn or in illustrations and so on. But there's also people who had really bad experiences, so that they had bad stuff happen to them, some trauma buried there. So they also bring this different vibe. But all in all,
And so for
once
them, it's more like a reclamation, right? Like
yeah,
they're reclaiming their
yeah,
body. They feel like there's
absolutely.
been, right, because the vulva, the whole vaginal region is sometimes a source of pleasure and sometimes a source of pain, or humiliation or embarrassment. And so that reclaiming of it and feeling like this is my body and I get to, own it and love it and, celebrate it. Yeah.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. And it's also health topics and pregnancy. This is people that say the last few years the only person that really, like, the only time I took my vulva out was because someone had to insert an object, like at the gynecologist, or they had to do tests, or it always was like something because of my health. And it's like you say, they want to reclaim it, they want to take it back and say, this is something I do for myself. And
yeah,
it's
I love that.
very powerful, and it's very beautiful. And I always say that they can be so proud of themselves, because it does take a little bit of bravery to sit in front of a stranger and share their stories and show their bodies. But yeah, it's beautiful, and I'm very lucky to do this job.
Yeah, it's so interesting that, I find this definitely within my work around the pleasure circle and sex therapy in general, is that there's a curiosity and there's, there's like a playfulness and there's a curiosity about it, but there's also a lot of like hesitation and sometimes fear of anyone else knowing. And meanwhile, it's the same conversation that so many women are having in their heads,
Absolutely.
right? So it's like,
I say this all the time, and like, if you ask me for my biggest takeaway out of all of this, then it's really that we have so much in common, we just don't know. Like, we walk around thinking,
yeah,
I'm the only one feeling that way, or I'm the only one with these issues, or I'm the only one who can't orgasm or can't feel pleasure.
mhm,
No, it's so many of us. So we have to start talking about it, because maybe you can learn from each other, or maybe you can help others that they don't make the same mistakes that you did. Or just it doesn't even, we don't even have to talk about our next generation, because of course we want them to grow up in a society where it's no taboo anymore. But also for us, it's not too late anymore. We talked about it the other day. I mean, the oldest person that came
yeah,
to cast the Vulva was 72. And so it's never too late to basically do this for yourself and say, hey, with the knowledge I have today, I don't want to do the things that I did yesterday. I want to change. And today is the day where it changes. And from now onwards, I do things differently. And
yeah.
that's really, really powerful. And yeah, I'm so
I'm always
grateful that you do
surprised.
your job.
I'm so surprised that these, a lot of my participants in Pleasure Circle have been in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. I've got 2 women in their 70s and in this round right now that I'm doing. And I just think it's amazing. Like they feel less trepidation talking about the more sensitive things. They've just got sort of a like, I'm just going to go for it, at this point, like attitude. And I think that's actually really empowering. And it signals to the other participants, like, this is cool. Like,
That's
as
it.
women,
That's it.
we get to do this.
Absolutely. And no matter what the age is, because this is also a big stigma, like at a certain age, you don't do things anymore, you don't care, or, like also how we see elderly people in the society, they just don't have sex in our eyes, it's like almost it doesn't matter anymore. No, it always matters. It always matters. And this is super inspiring, because if
Yeah.
now I'm 30 and I'm learning from them, and I'm seeing like, oh, wow, this is an ongoing journey. So the issues I have today, maybe I don't have them tomorrow, or maybe they come back in 40 years.
Yeah.
It's a journey, and that's okay. It's really
Yeah.
okay. And yeah, that you can only feel if you talk to people, especially of different ages or cultures and so on.
Right. It's like the allowance. Well, so that actually was one of my questions too, is you do these castings in different countries around Europe, and hopefully you're coming to the US. So that's happening in the future. Do you notice cultural differences as you go from country to country within the EU?
I mean, I have been mostly to German-speaking countries, but I've also been to the Netherlands and to Spain and to France. So, what shocks me the most is it's all pretty much the same when it comes to the shame, when it comes to the taboo, when it comes to the sexualization. And I also get messages from everywhere in the world, like people from Iran, from Korea, from Brazil. They tell me the same things. I mean, what I can see is that, for example, people writing from the Middle Eastern countries, the big topic, for example, is virginity. Their whole hype about that topic. Where I can see, oh, okay, this is where we also need to educate a bit more. Or other countries, there's still this big stigma about the menstruation. We in Austria, fortunately, don't have this so much anymore. But after all, it's still the same. It's this big, it's like just they put this cover of shame and sexualization all over Europe. So unfortunately, it's pretty much the same, which also means that with the right education, we cannot just mobilize one person. We can mobilize all of the people who have a vulva, and there is so much potential. And this is also really beautiful to see. So you can see it as a problem, which it is, but you can also see it as something that can be fixed, because now we've seen what the problem is. And once you see the problem, you find the solution. Simple as that.
Yep. I love that. And I know that you came into this direction, or to this project, also through the side of education, like that's important to you. Speak to that a little bit. Like, what's the history there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think without education, without the fundament of knowledge, you cannot take good decisions. And this is something that goes into every of the topics that I've mentioned. I mean, how do you set boundaries if you don't even know how to name those body parts? I always called it vagina. I didn't even call it vulva, you know. So I can't even set boundaries, because the person I'm trying to set the boundaries to, they won't even understand my language. Or, you know, if you never look at yourself because you're not taught to do so or told to do so, how will you realize if you're sick, if something is wrong, you know? So this all has to do with education. Simply put, you cannot fool smart people. So, you know, the more we know, the more we can say, you know what, I don't think that's right. I don't want that. And this is why education is so important. This is where it starts.
Right. And so it's exposure, it's making it, and on some level, it gives women permission. Like when you start talking about openly naming, I mean, even just naming it the right thing, which is the vulva, right? The vagina is what classically gets used, but it's the wrong word. You know, that speaks to the canal inside. That does not speak to the whole bits on the outside, and the clitoris, the whole package.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention the clitoris, because this is also something that I only found out 3 years ago. And I received very good education. I have a degree in biology, and no one ever told me what the clitoris is. So I always thought it's like this small thing, but it's this huge organ. Can you believe it? And I studied half of my degree in Argentina and half of it in Austria. And I was thinking, how is this possible? I really had good education. And it's things like this where I'm thinking, you know, there is generations of women and people with vulvas who think they can't orgasm, they can't feel pleasure, that they don't like how they have sex. But then when you ask them, well, what's the points where you are most excited, or what's, you know, like, what's the clitoris? They don't know. Their partners don't know. And you're thinking, well, of course you're going to have a problem here. This is why education is important. And that's why I also love that you are teaching what you're teaching, because there is people who already have all these resources, who have that knowledge. And it's not a shame to ask, hey, I need help. I didn't know. Can I learn from you? And that's what it means to bring this big change. Just each of us helping each other out.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the blind leading the blind a little bit with this process of, there's a lot of people having sex, but not really understanding what enhances it. Why is it better or worse, or sometimes, you know, more satisfaction. And so understanding your parts is basic, and then being able to communicate with your partner about it, of course, matters. So I totally agree that having, starting with like looking at it in a mirror is a great place to start. I think getting a statue is the gold standard, and I want to do that. So I'm definitely signing up when you come to the US. Do you have, let's see, we'll put a link to your process. So your website is vulvarium.com. Your Instagram is vulvacasting. So that's where they can find you, and we'll link that in the bio. Where can we get in on the action in the United States? Do you have a sense of
Yes.
dates or places?
I am working on it. So I think it's going to happen in 2024. I'm very positive. I already looked at all the visa stuff and all these things. So I'm going to keep everyone posted on what's going on online. What's also always good is just to pop me a quick message and say, hey, I'm in this area, you know, can you come to this area? Because this is how I look out. I check where are lots of requests coming from, and that's then the cities that I'm going to target. But yeah, I can't wait. I really, really want to come. And so yeah, I'm gonna keep you all posted. I don't have dates yet, but in early 2024 is my goal for now. Yeah.
All right, well, we'll stay tuned. Hopefully you make it to the West Coast, maybe LA or San Francisco. That would be, I'm imagining there's definitely markets in those two for women that would like to participate. So I so appreciate you coming on today and joining us, and we will track your progress. And at some point I will have my own statue to show. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the work that you do, for, you know, talking about this topic, because this is what it takes. It takes all of us to spread a word, and everyone who just listened, you know, it's as easy as to say, you know what, I just listened to a podcast where someone is doing statues of vulvas. What do you think about it? And I tell everyone, you're going to be surprised. They might be in the first moment be like, ah, what did you just ask me? But when they see that you are honest about it, you are authentic about it, that you're not saying these things to make a joke, but you really want to go into the conversation, oh, you're gonna be surprised how amazing the conversation is going to be, because we all have these body parts. We all are having sex. You know, we are living this reality all together, and we really want to talk about it. So yeah, just go out, spread the word, and yeah, thank you so much that you provide this platform and the work that you do. It's really important for all of us.
Absolutely. So if you want to read more about Victoria, you can head on over to pleasureproject.us. You can also join a future pleasure circle at pleasureproject.us and look for the small groups. So take care, and we will talk to you and see you in a future episode soon.